Hi, and welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman, and I had promised you another quilted jacket pattern, and I have one for you today. It is using my quilted kimono jacket pattern, and I'll have this available out on my website for you. Very simple to make. And I'm going to be using this quilt that I pieced probably 20 years ago. It's a scrappy spools pattern. So I'm going to use this quilt and this pattern, and I'll show you the pattern close up here in a minute when I get to the tabletop. And then there's a few supplies that you'll need. This pattern is one size fits most. It'll fit from a small to a large, even into an extra large. And of course, just keep in mind the size small, the jacket will be larger for a smaller build, and then the jacket will fit more tightly for a large, extra large person. But it will be one size fits most. And there's just a simple way to lay this out on your quilts. For the quilt or the fabric that you're going to use, it needs to measure at least 55 inches wide or more, and it needs to be at least 76 inches long, unless you want a shorter jacket. But that's the measurements that you'll need for this. I would recommend, if it's the first time you've made a kimono jacket or any type of a jacket, get yourself a piece of muslin from Walmart, Joann's, whatever. Just have fun on the muslin first, getting familiar with the technique, and make the jacket and then cut into your quilt. So let's get started cutting into this quilt. I like to use a quilt that's already finished. It just makes it so much easier. And if you like the content that I provide, please don't forget to like and subscribe and share the videos with your friends, family, and quilt guilds. That really does help my channel to grow. And I'm looking forward to getting up to 15,000 subscribers. So if you can help me, that would be a blessing. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, and I hope that you'll enjoy the content that I'm providing. Now let's take a look at what you need to get going on this jacket pattern. All right, let's take a look at some of the things that you'll need for supplies. I do have a T-ruler here that will just help you, because I'm going to be transferring the measurements from this pattern to my quilt top, and I'm going to probably flip it over and transfer those measurements on the back side. You could certainly transfer them to the front side. I'm going to be using tailor's chalk, and tailor's chalk is something that does come off. I've got white, yellow, red and blue in this tailor's chalk container, so I'll be able to use colors that I'll be able to see as I'm transferring markings. I'm also going to use a long ruler and even a square ruler like this. If you don't have a T-ruler, you can certainly just use a long ruler and a square ruler, and this will help you to transfer markings. So there isn't patterns that you literally are going to place on the quilt and cut out. You're going to just take the measurements here. For instance, the main body of this pattern is 32 inches by 55 inches. I am going to measure that on one end of my quilt and mark it off. I will mark off the center line, which will go, these is the front, this is the back. The center line will be cut up there, and there will be a little cut at this point, and all of this will make sense as I'm going through it. And then we have a couple of sleeves that I will mark on my quilt, and I have front panels that I'll mark on my quilt. And this will be added to the bottom here. There's also a back panel that will be added to the bottom here, so that it's a longer jacket. If you only cut this much out, it would be a short jacket. So you can certainly personalize this. I've laid out all of the measurements in a 55 by 76 inch long quilt right here. I've got your sleeve hembands here. I have your neck hemband here. And then we've got a couple of gussets and some pockets. So it's all laid out there for you. You simply are going to start at one end, take the measurements, transfer them via chalk to your quilt. And then once everything is transferred onto the quilt, then we'll cut it. There are some other things you might want to take into consideration. If you look at this quilt that I have done here, and it's been machine washed and dried over the years, and there has been some fading. In fact, it's on the other side of the quilt where the reds have bled and some of them have, the blues and stuff have faded. But I'm not going to worry about that so much. I'm going to cut my jacket body from this side. However, all the way around my quilt, I've got this, it's about a 6 or maybe even larger border that goes all the way around. I would like this border on this end to be at the bottom of my jacket on the front and at the bottom of my jacket at the back. So I want to take that into account. Number two, this border right here, I do not want to be inside my jacket. I want it to be my neckband and my sleeve band. So when I cut out my neck bands and my sleeve band, I'm just going to use this section and cut out my sleeve bands and my neck bands and even pockets from that. So what I want to do is make sure that the middle of this jacket is all with the spools. And so that's what I'm going to accomplish first. And the second thing that I am planning to do with this, I want my jacket to be a shorter jacket. And because I am so short, since this is back here is the main body is 32 inches wide and 55 inches long, when I drape a tape measure over my shoulders and look at what 55 inches is, splitting that over my shoulders, that actually comes down the front and the back of me to a really good point on my body, which will make a shorter jacket. And I like that. So I think what I'm going to do is literally cut this main body here and not worry about the back panels and the front panels. These would certainly make the jacket longer, but I don't feel that I need those. So I'm going to use this piece right here. I am going to cut 2 sleeves. I am going to cut my neck bands and my sleeve bands. I will cut some gussets. Gussets are very important. They're just 4-inch squares that we're going to cut on a diagonal, which will allow us to add some, it goes under the arms and it makes the jacket wear and just fit so much more nicely. So you definitely want to include gussets. You don't have to, but I would recommend that you do that. And then I'm going to cut out some pockets. I'll probably cut my pockets using this border fabric. At this point, I have chalked in a line from one side to the other side of the quilt, and that is where I will cut. And that part over there, which is hanging off the table, will be my main body. And again, my main body is not going to be as long as the regular pattern. I'm not going to add the additional front and back panels. I'm just going to use that right there. And that allowed me to have the border on the top and at the bottom. So the bottom of my jacket on all the way around will have the beautiful border. So that is my marking there. Now I'm going to bring this up here a little bit farther so I could have it on my table. Now I want to place in on the center of this quilt the sleeves, and the sleeve measurements on the pattern are 19 by 16 inches. If you feel that you want your sleeves to be shorter, absolutely cut them shorter. Some of us have shorter arms. I have shorter arms. This would be a regular measurement. Kimono jackets typically run kind of loose and big and kind of long, but anytime I'm making any kind of a garment, I must shorten up my legs, my arms, the body of any garment because I am shorter, and so I do make some adjustments. So I placed my ruler. That was my line for the my main body, and now I'm going to place a sleeve here. And I've literally just lined up my 14-inch mark on that line. And I've come over here with my chalk and I've marked a 14-inch marking right there. And the simple thing about using the quilt that it has a lot of squares and all of the lines that I actually need to line up. So I don't really need a T-ruler so much. I'm just using my ruler here and lining things up based upon the quilt piece pattern itself. And I am going to go down 18 inches. I will make that marking here. And again, this is chalk that I'm using. And I just went ahead and I'm marking mine right on the front of the quilt. And my chalk lines will be my cutting lines. So my sleeve is going to be about 18 inches long, and my sleeve is going to be about 14 wide. All right, so there is one sleeve right here. I'm going to duplicate this right next to it. And you'll notice I'm not literally following the pattern. I am just taking the elements that I want and placing them on my quilt using the measurements or a variation of those measurements as I transfer them to my quilt. I want to get my main body of the jacket cut out now. So I'm going to get started, and I am using a pinking shears. You can absolutely use a rotary cutter and mat if you have one that's large enough, but I am simply using a pinking shears, and I'm cutting from one end of the quilt all the way over to the other end. All right, I have the body of my jacket cut out. This will be the front of my jacket at the bottom, and this will be the back of my jacket at the bottom. And I do recommend using a pinking shears for garment fabric is wonderful. Using a pinking shears on quilted fabric hurts your hand. I need to get some pinking rotary blades. That would have been so much easier. So just a hint for you, if you have some pinking blades. The reason I'm pinking everything is just to help with the seam allowances. I will be doing an overcast stitch just on my domestic machine with all of the raw edges. You could certainly bind all of the edges if you want to, but I'll probably just be doing an overcast on any edges that will be showing. So this is the front of the jacket, the main body of the jacket. The bottom here is the front bottom. And what I'm going to do is find the center on this, and I will be cutting up the center, and I'll be using a T ruler to help me with that. But I will be cutting up the center of it, and then I'll make a 3-inch cut across here, and that becomes the opening, and this becomes the neck up in this area. So I'll be doing that next. I'm not doing it at the moment, but I just wanted to let you know where I am at this point. So that's my body. What I do have here are these, this is the leftover part of the quilt. That was at one end of it. And I'm going to cut my neck bands from here. All right, I've cleaned off my tabletop, and I just have my front band, or my front body here. So I've got it laid out here, and I have it folded. So this is the bottom front of my jacket, and this is the bottom back underneath. I have it folded. Now what I need to do, these are my shoulders right up here, and I need to cut a line that is centered all the way up to the shoulders, and then about a 3-inch cut across here, perpendicular to this cut. And that will open up that area to allow the jacket front to come on. And since my particular jacket, I've cut mine 28 inches wide, I'm going to find the 14-inch mark from both sides, and I will draw a line here and bring it all the way to the top. And then I'll cut that, and then cut about a 3 or 3.5 inch opening up here for that neck edge. So I have simply used a rotary cutter and my ruler to slice up the center. Let me pull this way so you can see. I found the center of it in the width-wise, drew my chalk line all the way up, and cut to the center. This is my shoulder area right here. And then I cut across here. I actually extended mine to 5 inches. What I'm going to do is trim away some triangles. You want to make sure your triangles are even. And this will allow you to have this area to sew your binding, your neck band to. So you can either use the neck band, which is a couple inches wide, or if you just prefer to finish this off with a binding, a quilt binding, you can absolutely do that. Putting this back, and in fact, you can make your cut, you can cut your neck edge as long as you want if you want it to be a little bit more of a gradual triangle. That becomes your neck and the front of the jacket, whatever you choose. I'm going to go try it on and take a peek in the mirror and decide if I want my triangles around my neck edge to be shorter. This would bring the front of the jacket up higher under my neck or under my chin, or if I want my triangles that I'll be trimming away to be a little bit longer. And this just gives you a little bit more area here around the neck area. And then you want to make sure that you trim them away evenly. Once I make that decision, I'm going to flip them just like this, and I will identify the length that I want to trim away this triangle, and I will do both of them at the same time so they are identical. I went to the mirror and I tried on the jacket, and again, my head and neck are coming up here, and I decided, where do I want this to fall? And I liked, in fact, I marked it with chalk, I like that position right there. that just gave me a nice amount of room around my neck, and then it can gradually go down into the band, the front of the jacket, and the band will be attached. So what I'm going to do then is take this jacket, line up the front. Here is the marking, and I'm going to take a ruler. I need my longer ruler. And I can mark this with a chalk too. But from this mark here up there, I can cut this off and that will be gone. And then I'll have a nice open neck area there. And I'm just going to use my rotary cutter here. Hit everything? I did. Got it all. Okay, let's take a look. All right, there is the front of the jacket. And it's got a nice triangle there, and that allows for the neck and the head opening. Now you can certainly make yours longer or shorter. It all depends on what's comfortable for you. So before you make that cut, try it on, see how it fits, see how it feels. And so now the front of my jacket is ready for the neck band or to be bound, however you choose to finish it. And my sleeves now are going to be cut as well as my neck band. So let me get to that next. I've just cut one sleeve out, so it is ready to go. And I did resort to my rotary cutter because it's just difficult to cut with my pinking shears on thick fabric like this. I'm following the pink chalk lines that I had placed on there for the outline of my sleeve. And I'm simply cutting on those pink chalk lines. All right, both of my sleeves are ready to go. I cut bands. And I have a band here. It's a 4-inch wide band, which when I sew it across the entire front of the jacket, it will end up being less than 2 inches all the way around. And you simply need to measure from the bottom all the way around back to the bottom. And that will be your measurement to cut your band. So make sure that you've got what you need there. I'm gonna need to piece in this little section here. It will fit beautifully down there, but I'll need to piece this in at the top to make sure that I have the length that I need. I also cut out pockets, and I cut these from the border fabric, so I have those ready. And then, of course, I had already cut out my sleeves, but I wanted to share with you about the gussets and what they are and why you need them. So for the gussets, you need 2 4-inch squares. So I cut 2 4-inch squares, just like that, from the border fabric, and then I cut them on the diagonal. And what you're going to do when we attach our sleeve, we're first going to sew. I want to make sure that I'm centered so you can see this. We're going to sew these just like that, and that will create a little bit extra fabric under the arm on both sides, and it will just make the jacket lay a little better. So these are the gussets that are going to get sewn to the sleeve, the top of the sleeve, and then these will be sewn into the jacket. So, and you'll see that when I put it together. And I'm not cutting up my sleeve bands yet. I'm not sure how long I'm going to need those, or if I can actually just use the bottom of this. I have, like I mentioned, very short arms, so this could end up being something I have to trim off. We'll see once I get to that point. The pattern itself is something that you can make your own. Play around with the pattern, change it up, personalize it so that it fits your style and what you'd like your jacket to look like. Now that I have my parts and pieces together, I'm going to sew it together. So let's see how that's done. Let me show you where I am so far. So this is one of my sleeves. I've attached those gussets here. I sewed it down, and I did an overcast stitch all the way around this sleeve so that all of the seams are finished. If you have a serger, absolutely go ahead and do that. But it's just a simple overcast stitch. Most sewing machines have an overcast stitch. It takes a little bit of time, but it's worth it just to finish all of the edges. So this sleeve is done. I did the same here. I attached the gussets. I sewed them on there, and then I've opened them up and just did an overcast stitch all the way around. Both sleeves are ready to be attached to the jacket top. I also went into my outside seams on this jacket. Let me open this up for you. And I did an overcast stitch. Make sure that this is in the screen for you. I did an overcast stitch around the entire outside edge there, and around the entire outside edge over here. Now, I'm not worrying about the center edge because this front of the jacket where the neckband is going to be, that will be finished and enclosed, so I don't have to worry about that. But I wanted to make sure that my outside edges were finished. Now we're going to attach the sleeve, and you're simply going to find the center your shoulder point, which is right here across the quilt. And that's very easy to find there. And then you're going to take each of your sleeves and find the center point of the sleeve. You can simply just fold it in half. So there's my center point. And I'm going to attach one sleeve like that. So I will flip it right sides together and stitch it across there. And then that sleeve will be attached. This is the shoulder. That's the sleeve there. So I'll sew that right there, and I'll do the same on the opposite side. And the neat thing about using a quilted jacket for this jacket is that your lining is already done. That is ready for you. So now once I sew that, we'll have that there, and then you can see how these gussets are helping under the arm. It's giving you a little bit extra fabric there, so it's not puckering under your arms. So let me get these two sleeves sewn, and I'll bring it back and show that to you. Here is where I am so far. I've got the sleeves sewn on. So here's one sleeve sewn on this side. This is the shoulder. This is the neck. I put a green mat under here so you can see this better, because my white mat makes it a little hard to see. And here is the second sleeve sewn on right here. As you can see, there it is. I used a 1/2 inch seam allowance to attach that. Now that I have the two sleeves on, all I have to do is flip this right sides together and come over here and match up the bottom all the way up here, match up around the gusset, all the way down to this edge of the sleeve. And so a 1/2 inch stitching line all the way around here. And I'll go ahead and pin it, and then I'll bring it back and show it to you. I used my clips, and I pinned, this is the bottom of the jacket. I've pinned it all the way up here, around the gusset, down the sleeve. So there is the jacket pinned, and I will sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around that on both sides. I have the side seams sewn, and the sleeves are sewn, as you can see here. And what I'm going to need to do is customize this a little bit. As I mentioned, this pattern is a one size fits most. It is just too wide for my body, for my frame. So I can reduce it in size in a couple of manners. What I could do across the back of it is take it in, or create a pleat back there, and maybe sew down a pleat, which will eliminate some of that excess bulk in the back. And in the front, and I definitely am going to do this for the front, I'm basically going to eliminate this amount of fabric. I'm going to flip that under and get rid of that. It's that whole section right there that I'm going to get rid of. I just tried this on and looked in the mirror and kind of fitted it. So when I put on my binding, I am just going to bind straight up and down this way. And that will help to eliminate some of the excess bulk. This is a quilt, if you remember. Most kimonos, they're supposed to drape, and because this is a quilt, it's not going to drape like a normal kimono fabric would. So there is some bulk to it that I just want to eliminate, and I can simply do that by eliminating a little bit of the front. I may, if that isn't enough, I may take in 1 inch or 2 across the back of the jacket, and then it should fit really well. I have very short arms, so I will need to literally take this up almost 2.5 inches in order for that the sleeves to be right. I'll finish the ends of the sleeves, and I will sew it in, get my sleeves turned up, and I'll let you take a peek. I've pretty much got the jacket finished. Here it is, folded in half. Here is the front of it. I did use the band. I used the 4-inch wide band in the length of this entire front edge. And what I did was I just put it right sides together on one side and stitched it down. Then I wrapped it around and just attached it to the other side. I did do an overcast stitch on that band so that it has a finished edge there. I think I might do a top stitch on this side all the way around as well. I might top stitch on both sides of that band. And it is ready to, I have to press the sleeves and get my sleeves hemmed up. They don't have to get hemmed up too much, just a little bit. And then I'll stitch those in. But the jacket is ready. I'm excited about it. I was contemplating using this for my binding here, which I think would have been fine. But I was concerned that this band was going to be too thick, I should say. And it isn't. It's going to work out beautifully. So I'm very, very pleased with my jacket. And I love the length. I finished the front of the jacket here. I did go ahead and do a top stitch on the outer side of the jacket. We need to share with you how to do the pockets as well. I did an overcast stitch all the way around the pockets, just like I did the overcast stitch on the edge of the neckband, and I also did an overcast stitch on the inside of the sleeve, and then I just turned it under and did a straight stitch for the hem, just a very simple hem. And so for this, I wanted to press these under, and then what I'm going to do is pin it on the front of my jacket. So I'll have a pocket on each side. And I think what I'll do is just line up these seam allowances here and this seam allowance there, and I will pin it on so that it's secure. And then I'm simply going to go ahead and stitch all the way around. I'll make sure that I back stitch quite a bit at the tops of the pocket so that they'll stay secure. But I'll just do a top stitch all the way around to secure each of those pockets, and I'm going to line up those seams across that piecing there. And then my pockets will be on, and it's ready to go. Let me finish the pockets, and then I'll try the jacket on for you. So here is the finished jacket. I really like how it turned out. I like the fact that I was able to use the border of that quilt around the entire front and back of it. So I'm glad that worked out well. I like the length of the sleeves. I could have added the band. It does have directions to add a band, but I chose not to. I did eliminate a little bit more of the front band, as you saw. You can customize everything. I did add my pockets. I put my pockets on lengthwise. You could certainly put them on widthwise if you choose to. But I love everything about the jacket. It's very nice. It's going to be very warm because it is a quilt turned into a kimono jacket. And I'm very pleased with it. What do you think? One other thing I wanted to point out, when I cut out the pockets, I took advantage of the binding that was already on the edge of the quilt. And so I cut this pocket from the border, and at the top of the pocket is the edge of the quilt, which is already bound. Same thing over here. And then, of course, the front and the back of the jacket, I also took advantage of the binding that was on the edge of the quilt, and that became the front and the back bottom. And that allowed me not to have to worry about finishing that. It's already done. Thank you so much for joining me today as I shared my quilted kimono jacket pattern with you. Hope you enjoyed it. I would love to see some of the jackets that you put together. Take pictures of them and head out to my Facebook group page, Quilting with Lori's Grab Up Your Stash, and post those pictures. I'd love to see them. I still have quite a bit of that quilt left. I could make up a bag, a shoulder bag, a tote bag. Not sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but got lots left over, and I'll have fun making another project from this. Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you next time. Happy quilting.